They sent me back 3 times. The trembling voice of the 6-year-old girl echoed through the orphanage courtyard, shattering the heart of Lawrence Galvin, a 32-year-old millionaire CEO, into 1,000 pieces. He was kneeling on the cold ground, his $3,000 Armani suit completely wrinkled, looking into the brown eyes of that small blonde child with pigtails who clutched her crutches as if they were her only anchor in the world. "Please," Virginia sobbed, tears streaming down her pale cheeks. "I just wanted a home, a real family. I promise I'll be good, that I won't be any trouble. I know how to walk slowly so I don't get in the way. I know how to stay quiet. I just don't want to come back here again." Just 3 weeks earlier, Lawrence and his wife Ashley had walked out of a doctor's office with broken hearts. "You're sterile," the doctor had said, destroying their years-long dream of having a biological child. They had tried for so long, failed so many times, until the cruel truth finally came to light. The man who had built a millionaire empire couldn't give his wife the one thing she truly wanted: to be a mother. Now, Ashley was sitting on the ground beside the little girl, her expensive blue dress stained with dust, but she didn't care. She was crying too. "What's wrong with me?" Virginia asked, her voice breaking. "Why did 3 families want me and then not want me anymore? Is it because of the crutches? Is it because I'm slow? I can try to be faster, I swear I can." Lawrence looked at that broken child, rejected 3 times, and felt an inexplicable connection. He didn't know in that moment that he would discover a secret about Virginia's biological mother that would change everything. A secret that would prove some meetings aren't coincidence but destiny. All Lawrence knew, kneeling on that ground, was that his search was over. He had found his daughter, and this time, no one would send her back. Before we continue with the story, tell us where you're watching from and how old you are. I hope you enjoy the story. The rain drummed against the tall windows of Dr. Morrison's office on that gray October afternoon in Omaha. Lawrence Galvin sat rigid in the leather chair, his Rolex catching the dim light as he gripped the armrest. His knuckles had gone white. Beside him, Ashley reached for his hand, but he couldn't feel her touch. He couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight of the words the doctor had just spoken. "I'm sorry, Mr. Galvin. The tests are conclusive. You're sterile. There's no possibility of biological children." Lawrence had built an empire by the age of 32. He had turned a small tech startup into one of the most successful companies in the Midwest. He wore custom-tailored black suits, commanded boardrooms, made million-dollar decisions before breakfast. But in that moment, sitting in that office with its mahogany desk and medical diplomas lining the walls, he felt like a complete failure. "Are you certain?" Ashley's voice was barely a whisper. Her blue eyes were already filling with tears, but she was trying to be strong. She was always trying to be strong. "Isn't there any treatment, any procedure?" Dr. Morrison, a kind-faced man in his 50s with graying hair, folded his hands on his desk. "I wish I could give you different news. We've run every test available. I've consulted with specialists at Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic. The condition is irreversible. I'm truly sorry." The drive home was silent. Lawrence stared out at the streets of Omaha, watching ordinary people living ordinary lives, probably going home to ordinary families. The thought made his chest ache. Ashley sat in the passenger seat of their Mercedes, her blue dress wrinkled from clutching the fabric, mascara running down her cheeks despite her best efforts to stop crying. When they pulled into the circular driveway of their mansion in the upscale Fair Acres neighborhood, the house looked emptier than ever. 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a pool, a 3-car garage. All of it felt hollow. Lawrence had bought this house 3 years ago, imagining it filled with children's laughter, tiny footsteps running down the marble hallways, toys scattered across the perfectly manicured lawn. That night, Ashley found Lawrence in his study, staring at a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. The room smelled of leather and old books. Rain continued to patter against the windows, a melancholy soundtrack to their grief. "Talk to me," Ashley said softly, standing in the doorway. She had changed into comfortable clothes, her long blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Even in her pain, she was thinking of him. "What's there to say?" Lawrence's voice was hollow. "I failed you, Ash. I failed at the one thing that should come naturally." Ashley crossed the room and knelt beside his chair, taking his hands in hers. "Don't you dare say that. Don't you dare. This isn't about failure, Lawrence. This is just life. Life throwing us a curveball. I always thought—" He started, then stopped, his jaw clenching. "I always thought I'd teach my son to throw a baseball. Or take my daughter to her first day of school. I had this whole picture in my head of what our life would be." "I know," Ashley whispered, tears streaming down her face again. "I know, baby. I had the same picture. I dreamed about decorating a nursery, about feeling a baby kick, about all of it." They held each other in that study for hours, crying together, grieving the children they would never have. The rain eventually stopped, and stars emerged in the clear Nebraska sky, indifferent to the pain unfolding below them. The next few weeks were dark. Lawrence threw himself into work with an almost manic intensity, staying at the office until midnight, sometimes sleeping on the couch in his corner office rather than coming home. His assistant, Margaret, a motherly woman in her 60s, worried about him but knew better than to say anything. Ashley tried to maintain normalcy, but the house felt like a mausoleum. She would start decorating rooms and then stop, remembering there was no point. She avoided the grocery store because seeing pregnant women and families with children felt like salt in an open wound. One evening in late November, as the first snow of the season began to fall, Ashley was sitting at their kitchen island scrolling through her laptop. Lawrence came home earlier than usual, around 8 o'clock, loosening his tie as he walked through the door. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his usually sharp appearance slightly disheveled. "You're home early," Ashley said, not looking up from her screen. "I couldn't concentrate." Lawrence poured himself a glass of water from the refrigerator. "Every time I looked at the financial projections for the next quarter, all I could think was, what's the point? Who am I building this empire for?" Ashley was quiet for a moment, then turned her laptop toward him. "Come here. I want to show you something." Lawrence walked over, curious despite his exhaustion. On the screen was a website for the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. The page was titled Adoption Services. "Ash, I don't know if I'm ready." "Just listen," she interrupted gently. "Please, I've been researching for weeks. I know you're hurting, I'm hurting too. But Lawrence, there are thousands of children out there who need homes, who need love. Children who dream about having what we can give them." Lawrence pulled out a stool and sat beside her, looking at the screen. There were photos of children of all ages, smiling hopefully at the camera. Each photo had a brief description underneath. "A child doesn't need our blood to have our heart," Ashley said, her voice cracking with emotion. "They don't need to look like us or share our DNA to be ours. They just need us to choose them, to love them, to never give up on them." Lawrence stared at the screen for a long time. His rational business mind was fighting with his wounded pride, with his grief, with his fear. But slowly, as he looked at those hopeful young faces, something shifted inside him. "Tell me more," he said quietly. Ashley's face lit up for the first time in weeks. She opened multiple tabs, showing him information about the adoption process, success stories, resources for adoptive parents. They stayed up until 3 in the morning, reading and talking and slowly, carefully, rebuilding the dream they thought they had lost. Over the next month, they attended information sessions, spoke with adoption counselors, filled out mountains of paperwork. They underwent home studies where social workers inspected every corner of their mansion. They provided financial records, employment verification, criminal background checks, personal references. The process was exhausting and invasive, but with each step, they felt a new sense of purpose. Their counselor, a warm woman named Ms. Patricia Williams, told them about the various paths to adoption: international adoption, infant adoption, foster to adopt programs. But when she mentioned the children waiting in local orphanages, children who had been in the system for years, Ashley felt something pull at her heart. "Those children," Ashley said during one of their sessions in Ms. Williams's office downtown. "The ones who have been waiting the longest. Tell me about them." Ms. Williams smiled sadly. "They're often the ones who need love the most. Older children, sibling groups, children with special needs or medical conditions. They're harder to place because families usually want babies. But these kids, they have so much love to give. They just need someone to see past whatever label has been put on them." Lawrence and Ashley exchanged a look. They both knew, in that moment, which path they would take. In mid-December, with Christmas lights twinkling throughout Omaha and snow blanketing the city, they visited the Hope Haven orphanage for the first time. The building was a large, older structure on the north side of town, well-maintained but clearly operating on a limited budget. Inside, it was warm and decorated with children's artwork and holiday decorations. The director, Mrs. Elizabeth Patterson, a woman in her late 50s with kind gray eyes and salt and pepper hair, greeted them in the foyer. "Mr. and Mrs. Galvin, welcome to Hope Haven. I understand you're interested in adoption?" "Yes," Lawrence said, shaking her hand firmly. Despite his nervousness, his business persona kicked in. "We've completed our home study and are approved for adoption. Ms. Williams suggested we visit to meet some of the children." Mrs. Patterson smiled. "Wonderful. Let me give you a tour, and then we can spend time in our common areas where the children play. I should mention we have children of all ages here, from toddlers to teenagers. Some have been with us for just a few months, others for years." As they walked through the orphanage, Ashley's heart broke and swelled simultaneously. The facility was clean, and the staff clearly cared, but there was an institutional quality to it that no amount of cheerful paint could hide. This was not a home. These children needed homes. They met several children. A shy 5-year-old boy named Tommy who loved dinosaurs. Twin girls, 8 years old, who were inseparable and spoke in a secret language they had created. A teenage girl who was learning guitar and dreamed of being a musician. Each child was beautiful, special, deserving of love, but Lawrence and Ashley knew they would know their child when they met them. It would be unmistakable. They were walking through the facility toward the outdoor courtyard when Ashley stopped suddenly, her hand gripping Lawrence's arm. Through the window, she could see the play area. Most of the children were running around, playing tag or building snowmen under staff supervision. But sitting alone on a bench near the far edge of the yard was a small girl with blonde hair and pigtails. She wore a simple pink dress and a warm coat. 2 crutches leaned against the bench beside her. The girl was tearing up pieces of bread and tossing them to a group of birds that had gathered around her feet. She was speaking to them, though Ashley couldn't hear what she was saying. There was something about the way the child sat, isolated from the others, that made Ashley's breath catch. "Who is that?" Ashley asked, unable to look away. Mrs. Patterson followed her gaze and her expression grew somber. "That's Virginia. She's 6 years old. Sweet as can be, that one. Smart as a whip, too. But—" She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "But what?" Lawrence asked, also watching the little girl. "Virginia has been with us for 3 years, since she was 3. She has a condition that affects her mobility. She needs those crutches to walk. It's not degenerative, and with proper care she manages quite well. But—" Mrs. Patterson's voice dropped. "She's been adopted 3 times, and returned 3 times. "Returned?" Ashley's voice was sharp with anger. "Like she's a library book?" Mrs. Patterson nodded sadly. The families couldn't handle her special needs. They said it was too difficult, that they didn't have the resources or the knowledge. Each time she was returned, it broke her a little more. She doesn't trust easily anymore. She keeps to herself. She's convinced there's something wrong with her, that she's unlovable. Lawrence felt something ignite in his chest, rage, sorrow, and an overwhelming protectiveness for a child he had never even spoken to. He knew what it felt like to be considered not enough. He had spent his entire childhood as the skinny kid who was picked last for sports, the nerd who was bullied. He had built his entire empire partly to prove those bullies wrong, to show he was more than enough. "Can we meet her?" Lawrence asked. Mrs. Patterson hesitated. "I want to be honest with you. Virginia has been hurt so many times. If you're not absolutely serious about adoption, if there's any chance you might change your mind, please don't approach her. I don't think her heart could take another rejection." Ashley turned to face Mrs. Patterson fully, her blue eyes fierce with determination. "We would never. Never. Can we please meet her?" Mrs. Patterson studied them both for a long moment, then nodded. "Come with me." They stepped out into the cold December air, their breath forming clouds. The sounds of children playing filled the courtyard, but as they approached Virginia's bench, it was like entering a bubble of quiet. The little girl continued feeding the birds, unaware of their approach. "Virginia, sweetheart," Mrs. Patterson said gently, "you have some visitors who would like to meet you." The girl looked up, and Lawrence got his first clear view of her face. She had delicate features, big brown eyes that held too much sadness for a 6-year-old, and a guarded expression that made her seem older than her years. When she saw the well-dressed couple standing there, her small body tensed. "Hello, Virginia," Ashley said softly, crouching down despite the snow dampening her expensive blue dress. "I'm Ashley, and this is my husband, Lawrence. Is it okay if we sit with you for a bit?" Virginia shrugged, a tiny gesture that tried to seem indifferent but couldn't quite hide her wariness. "I guess." Lawrence sat on one side of the bench while Ashley settled on the ground near Virginia's feet, putting herself at the child's eye level. Virginia watched them with the careful attention of someone who had learned to read adult behavior for signs of danger or disappointment. "The birds seem to really like you," Ashley observed, watching as a brave sparrow hopped closer to Virginia's outstretched hand. "They're hungry," Virginia said simply. "The snow makes it hard for them to find food, so I save some of my breakfast bread and bring it out here." "That's very kind of you," Lawrence said. His voice, usually commanding in boardrooms, was gentle. Virginia looked at him suspiciously. "Are you here to adopt someone?" Ashley and Lawrence exchanged a glance. "We're hoping to," Ashley answered honestly. "We're looking for a very special child to join our family." "Well, I'm not special," Virginia said matter-of-factly, turning back to the birds. "So you probably want to meet the other kids. They run and play regular. I'm just the girl with the crutches." The casual way she dismissed herself, as if she had already accepted her own unworthiness, shattered something inside Ashley. She reached out slowly and gently touched Virginia's hand. "Why are you sitting out here alone, sweetheart? Don't you want to play with the other children?" Virginia pulled her hand back, not rudely, but reflexively, as if kindness was something unfamiliar and possibly dangerous. "The other kids don't like to play with me, I'm too slow. And I can't play tag or jump rope or most things, and the grown-ups—" She stopped, biting her lip. "What about the grown-ups?" Lawrence asked gently. Virginia's eyes filled with tears, though she tried desperately to hold them back. "They always leave. Every single one. They say they want to be my family, and then they realize I'm too much work, and they bring me back." "Has that happened to you?" Ashley asked, though she already knew the answer. The dam broke. Virginia's small body shook with sobs, years of rejection and pain pouring out. 3 times. 3 times people said they wanted me, and then they sent me back. What's wrong with me? Why doesn't anyone want to keep me? I try so hard to be good, I promise I do. I don't complain even when my legs hurt, and I try to do things myself so I'm not a burden, but it's never enough. I'm never enough." Ashley pulled Virginia into her arms without thinking, and after a moment of resistance, the little girl clung to her, crying into her shoulder. Lawrence felt tears burning in his own eyes. He placed his hand on Virginia's small back, feeling her shaking with sobs. "There is absolutely nothing wrong with you," Lawrence said, his voice thick with emotion. "Do you hear me, Virginia? Nothing. Not one single thing." Virginia pulled back enough to look at him, her face streaked with tears, her pigtails askew. "But then why? Why did they all send me back?" "Because they were fools," Lawrence said firmly. "Because they didn't see how incredibly special you are. But their failure to see your worth doesn't change your worth, it never did." I just want a home, Virginia whispered, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. A real home, with a real family, where I can stay forever. Is that too much to want? Am I being greedy? Ashley was crying now too, holding this broken child who wanted nothing more than what every child deserved. No, sweetheart. No, you're not being greedy, and you're not too much. You're exactly right. They sat there in the snow for nearly an hour, talking with Virginia. They learned that her favorite color was purple, that she loved books about animals, that she dreamed of one day having a dog, that her favorite food was chocolate chip pancakes. They learned that she was in first grade and loved math but struggled with spelling. They learned that she slept with a worn stuffed bunny named Mr. Hops that had been with her since before she came to the orphanage. As they talked, Lawrence and Ashley kept catching each other's eyes, silent conversations passing between them. This was their daughter. They both knew it with absolute certainty. This brave, hurt, beautiful little girl was meant to be theirs. When Mrs. Patterson came to tell them it was time for the children's dinner, Virginia's eyes filled with panic. Are you leaving now? You're not coming back, are you? No one ever comes back. Ashley cupped Virginia's face gently in her hands. We're coming back, Virginia. I promise you, we're coming back. Everyone says that, Virginia whispered. Not everyone is us, Lawrence said. He knelt down in the snow, ruining his expensive suit pants, and looked Virginia directly in the eyes. Virginia, I'm a businessman. I don't make promises I can't keep. It's bad for business and bad for my soul. So when I tell you we're coming back, that's a promise, okay? Virginia searched his face for any sign of deception, then nodded slowly. Okay. As they drove home that evening, both Lawrence and Ashley were quiet, but it was a different kind of silence than the one that had filled the car months ago. This silence was full of purpose, of hope, of love waiting to be given. She's our daughter, Ashley said finally. Yes, Lawrence agreed. She absolutely is. That night, they called Ms. Williams and told her they wanted to adopt Virginia. They wanted to start the process immediately. Ms. Williams warned them that the process could take months, especially since Virginia had been returned before. There would be additional psychological evaluations, more home visits, supervised meetings with Virginia to ensure attachment was forming healthily. We'll do whatever it takes, Lawrence said. Whatever she needs, whatever the system requires. We're not going anywhere. The next day, they returned to Hope Haven with gifts. A beautiful hardcover collection of animal stories for Virginia and bags of bird seed so she could continue feeding her feathered friends. Virginia's face when she saw them walk through the door was a mixture of disbelief and cautious joy. You came back, she whispered. We promised, Ashley said simply. They visited every day, sometimes for just an hour after Lawrence got off work, sometimes for entire afternoons on weekends. They played board games in the common room. They read stories. They helped Virginia with her homework. They got to know her favorite staff members and learned her routines. Virginia slowly began to trust them, though she still held back parts of herself, as if expecting them to leave at any moment. She never asked them directly if they were adopting her, as if speaking it out loud might jinx it. On Christmas Eve, Lawrence and Ashley arrived at Hope Haven with a small Christmas tree they had decorated together, along with presents for Virginia. Mrs. Patterson allowed them to spend the evening with her in one of the private visiting rooms. Virginia's eyes went wide when she saw the tree decorated with colorful lights and ornaments. Is that for me? Every kid should have a Christmas tree, Lawrence said, plugging it in so the lights twinkled. They spent the evening singing carols, eating cookies that Ashley had baked, and opening presents. Virginia received new books, art supplies, warm clothes, and a beautiful new dress in her favorite purple color. But her favorite gift was a small silver locket that Ashley placed around her neck. Open it, Ashley said softly. Virginia fumbled with the tiny clasp with her small fingers until it popped open. Inside were two pictures. One was of Lawrence and Ashley, smiling. The other was of Virginia herself from one of their visits, laughing at something Lawrence had said. We're a family, Ashley said, her voice trembling with emotion. The paperwork might take time, but in our hearts, you're already our daughter. This locket is so you can keep us close to your heart until we can be together all the time." Virginia touched the locket with wonder, tears streaming down her face. "Really? You really want me to be your daughter? Even with my legs? Even though I need crutches? Even though I might always need them?" Lawrence knelt beside her chair. "Virginia, listen to me very carefully. We don't want you despite your crutches. We don't want you even though you have challenges. We want you, all of you, exactly as you are. Your crutches don't define you. Your past doesn't define you. Your worth is not conditional on your mobility or anything else. You are worthy of love simply because you exist." Virginia threw her arms around his neck, sobbing. "I love you, Daddy." It was the first time she had called him that. Lawrence held her tight, tears running down his face into his beard. "I love you too, sweetheart, so much." Ashley joined the embrace, the three of them holding each other as the Christmas tree lights twinkled and snow fell softly outside the window. The next 3 months were a blur of paperwork, court dates, and supervised visits. The judge assigned to their case, Judge Martha Hendricks, was thorough and sometimes intimidating, but fair. She interviewed Virginia extensively, wanting to ensure the child truly wanted this adoption and wasn't being pressured. "Do you want Mr. and Mrs. Galvin to be your parents?" Judge Hendricks asked Virginia during one session in her chambers. Virginia nodded emphatically. "Yes, Your Honor. More than anything in the whole world." "Why? What makes them different from the other families who wanted to adopt you?" Virginia thought carefully before answering. The other families wanted a daughter. Any daughter would do, as long as she was easy and normal. But Lawrence and Ashley don't want just any daughter. They want me. They see me, not my crutches. And they come back every single day, even when I was mean to them at first because I was scared. They never give up. Judge Hendricks smiled for the first time in the interview. That's a very wise observation for a 6-year-old. Finally, on a bright day in late March, the adoption was finalized. In Judge Hendricks' courtroom, with Mrs. Patterson and several staff members from Hope Haven in attendance, Virginia officially became Virginia Galvin. Lawrence and Ashley stood on either side of their daughter as the judge signed the final papers. Virginia wore the purple dress they had given her at Christmas, her hair in perfect pigtails, her crutches beside her. When the judge declared the adoption complete, the courtroom erupted in applause. "Congratulations," Judge Hendricks said warmly. "Virginia, you now have a forever family, and Mr. and Mrs. Galvin, you have a beautiful daughter. Take good care of each other." "We will," they all said together. The drive to the Galvin mansion was surreal for Virginia. She sat in the back seat of the Mercedes, clutching Mr. Hops, her bunny, staring out at the neighborhoods that got nicer and nicer as they drove south. When they pulled into the driveway of the enormous house, Virginia's mouth dropped open. "This is where you live? But it's like a castle." Lawrence laughed, genuinely happy. "Well, not quite a castle, but it's pretty big. And now it's where you live too. This is your home, Virginia, forever." Ashley took Virginia's hand and walked her to the front door slowly, matching the pace of the crutches. "Welcome home, sweetheart." Inside, Virginia was overwhelmed. The marble foyer with its grand staircase, the living room with furniture that looked too nice to sit on, the enormous kitchen with gleaming appliances, the dining room with a table that could seat 12. "Can I really touch things?" Virginia asked nervously. "Or do I need to be super careful?" "This is your house," Ashley said firmly. "You can touch whatever you want. You can play wherever you want. You don't have to be careful. This is your home to live in, not a museum to look at." But the best was yet to come. Ashley led Virginia upstairs, Lawrence following behind with Virginia's small suitcase of belongings. They walked down a long hallway past several doors until Ashley stopped at one painted in a soft lavender color. "This is your room," Ashley said, opening the door. Virginia gasped. The room was every little girl's dream. The walls were painted in shades of purple and soft pink. There was a large bed with a canopy draped in sheer fabric. Bookshelves lined one wall, already filled with books. A desk sat by the window with art supplies neatly organized. Stuffed animals of every kind filled a reading nook in the corner, and on the nightstand beside the bed was a framed photo of the three of them from Christmas Eve. But what made Virginia start crying were the modifications throughout the room. The closet had been redesigned with lower rods, so she could reach her clothes easily. The bathroom attached to the room had been retrofitted with grab bars and a special shower seat. There was even a small bench strategically placed so she could sit while getting dressed. "You did all this for me?" Virginia whispered. "Of course," Lawrence said. "We want you to be comfortable. We want you to be independent. These are your spaces, designed for you." Virginia sat on the edge of her bed, running her hands over the soft comforter. "I've never had my own room before. At Hope Haven, I shared with 3 other girls. And before that, in the other houses, they always just cleared out a spare room, but it never felt like mine. This is really mine? Forever and ever," Ashley promised, sitting beside her. "And if you don't like something, we can change it. If you want different colors or different furniture, you just tell us. This is your space to make your own." That first night in her new home, Virginia couldn't sleep. Not because she was uncomfortable, but because she was afraid to close her eyes in case it was all a dream. Around midnight, she carefully made her way on her crutches down the hallway to the master bedroom. She stood in the doorway, watching Lawrence and Ashley sleep. After a moment, Ashley stirred and saw her. "Virginia? Sweetheart, what's wrong?" "I just needed to make sure you were really here," Virginia admitted in a small voice. "That this is really real." Lawrence woke up then too. Without a word, he pulled back the covers on his side of the bed. "Come here, kiddo." Virginia climbed into the big bed between them, Mr. Hops tucked under her arm. Ashley and Lawrence wrapped their arms around their daughter, creating a cocoon of warmth and safety. "We're here," Lawrence whispered. "We're not going anywhere. You're stuck with us now." Virginia smiled in the darkness. "Promise?" "Promise," they both said. The adjustment to her new life wasn't always smooth. Virginia had nightmares about being sent back. She would wake up screaming, convinced she was back at Hope Haven. Lawrence and Ashley would rush to her room, holding her until the fear passed, reminding her over and over that she was home. There were also practical challenges. The house, despite the modifications in Virginia's room, had stairs everywhere. Lawrence hired contractors to install ramps at every entrance. They widened doorways. They lowered light switches. They made their homework for their daughter. Virginia started at Woodbridge Academy in late April. It was the best private school in Omaha, with small class sizes and a reputation for excellence. Ashley had worried about how Virginia would be received by the other children, but she needn't have. On Virginia's first day, Lawrence drove her to school himself, taking time off from an important meeting. He walked her to her classroom, carrying her backpack while she maneuvered on her crutches. "What if they don't like me?" Virginia asked nervously as they stood outside the classroom door. Lawrence knelt down, adjusting her collar. "Then they're missing out on knowing the bravest, smartest, most amazing kid I've ever met. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to love you." Mrs. Henderson, Virginia's first-grade teacher, was a kind woman in her 40s who had been briefed on Virginia's situation. She welcomed Virginia warmly and introduced her to the class. "Everyone, this is Virginia Galvin. She's joining our class today. Let's all make her feel welcome." A little girl with red hair and freckles immediately raised her hand. "Hi, Virginia. I'm Emma. Want to sit next to me?" By lunchtime, Virginia had 3 new friends. By the end of the week, she was invited to 2 birthday parties. The children didn't see her crutches as a defining characteristic. They saw her as Virginia, who was really good at math and told funny jokes and had the coolest collection of animal books. Life settled into a wonderful routine. Lawrence learned to be home for dinner most nights, a significant change from his previous workaholic ways. Ashley had reduced her hours at her interior design firm to part-time so she could be there when Virginia got home from school. They had family game nights every Friday. They went to the Omaha Zoo on Saturdays. They attended Virginia's school plays and parent-teacher conferences. They were, in every way that mattered, a normal, happy family. One Sunday in late May, Ashley was going through some old boxes in the attic, organizing things to donate. She came across a box labeled High School Memories and smiled, expecting to find old yearbooks and photos. What she found made her heart stop. Inside were photos from her childhood, pictures of her and her best friend from elementary through high school. A girl with blonde hair and a bright smile, Martha Collins. Ashley pulled out the photos with shaking hands. There were dozens of them. Ashley and Martha at age 8, dressed up for Halloween. At 12, at their middle school graduation. At 16, at prom. And tucked in an envelope were letters Martha had sent during their first year of college, before they had lost touch. Ashley's hands shook as she opened Virginia's adoption papers, which she had been storing in this box. Under Mother's name it read, Martha Collins. "Oh my God," Ashley whispered. "Oh my God, oh my God." She ran downstairs clutching the photos and papers. Lawrence was in the living room with Virginia, helping her build an elaborate castle out of blocks. "Lawrence," Ashley said, her voice strange, "I need to talk to you right now." Something in her tone made Lawrence stand immediately. "Virginia, honey, keep building. We'll be right back, okay?" In the kitchen, Ashley spread the photos across the island counter. "Look at these, look at them." Lawrence picked up a photo of two young girls, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. "Okay, that's you when you were younger. And who's the other girl?" "Martha Collins," Ashley said, then held up Virginia's adoption papers. "Martha Collins." It took Lawrence a moment, then his eyes widened. "Wait, are you saying—" "Virginia's mother was my best friend from childhood," Ashley said, tears streaming down her face. "Martha was my person, Lawrence. We were inseparable until we lost touch after high school. She went to college in Kansas City and we just drifted. I tried to find her a few years ago on social media but couldn't. I thought maybe she'd gotten married and changed her name. I never knew. She had died," Lawrence finished softly. 3 years ago. They stood in stunned silence, trying to process this impossible coincidence. Ashley picked up one of the letters Martha had sent during college. "Listen to this," she said, reading aloud. "Dear Ash, I miss you so much. College is great, but I wish you were here. I met a guy and I think I'm falling in love, but I need my best friend to tell me if I'm being crazy or if this is the real thing. Why did we have to grow up and go to different schools?" Ashley's voice broke. She needed me, and I wasn't there. And then she had Virginia all alone and died alone, and I never knew. I never got to meet her daughter. I never got to help her. Lawrence pulled Ashley into his arms. "But you're helping her now, don't you see? Martha's daughter is our daughter. You're raising your best friend's child. You're giving her the life Martha would have wanted for her. It's like Martha sent her to us," Ashley sobbed. "Like somehow, across time and death, she found a way to bring her daughter home to someone who would love her." That evening, after Virginia was asleep, Lawrence and Ashley made copies of the photos. The next day, they sat Virginia down in the living room. "Sweetheart," Ashley said gently, "we found something yesterday that we want to share with you. It's about your mother, your birth mother, Martha." Virginia's eyes grew cautious. She didn't remember much about her mother, just vague impressions of warmth and love and then absence. Ashley showed her the photos. "Your mother and I were best friends when we were growing up. Look, here we are at about your age." Virginia studied the photos carefully, her small fingers tracing the face of the young Martha. "You knew my mom?" "I did," Ashley said, crying and smiling at the same time. "And she was wonderful, Virginia. She was brave and kind and funny and smart, just like you." They spent the next hour looking at photos and Ashley sharing stories about Martha, how Martha had rescued a stray cat and hidden it in her bedroom for 3 weeks before her parents found out, how she had stood up to a bully who was picking on a smaller kid, how she had dreams of becoming a teacher, how she had the best laugh, loud and unashamed. "She sounds amazing," Virginia said softly. "I wish I remembered her better." "She loved you so much," Ashley said. I know that even though I wasn't there. Because you are so full of love, and that had to come from somewhere. Virginia looked up at Ashley with wonder in her eyes. So you're not just my new mom. You're my mom's best friend. You're like, my family was always supposed to find your family? Exactly, Lawrence said. It's like destiny. Like you were always meant to be our daughter. We just took a long way to get here. Virginia threw her arms around Ashley. I'm so glad I found you. I'm so glad you found me. Life continued to be beautiful. Virginia thrived at school, making honor roll every quarter. She joined the school's art club and discovered she had a talent for painting. Lawrence framed every single one of her paintings and hung them throughout his office, much to the amusement of his colleagues. Ashley and Virginia had special mother-daughter days where they would go shopping or to museums or just spend hours in the backyard planting flowers. Virginia loved helping Ashley in the garden, even though it was difficult with her crutches. I wish I could do more, Virginia said one Saturday afternoon as she watched Ashley plant tulip bulbs. I feel useless just sitting here. You're not useless, Ashley said firmly. Here, you design where you want the flowers to go, and I'll do the digging. We're a team. For Lawrence's birthday in July, Virginia wanted to do something special. With Ashley's help, she spent weeks creating a photo album filled with pictures from the past few months. She wrote captions under each photo in her careful first-grade handwriting. The last page said, "Thank you for being my daddy. I love you to the moon and back. Love, Virginia." When Lawrence opened it at his birthday dinner, he cried in front of all the guests. He didn't care. He pulled Virginia into his lap and held her tight. "This is the best gift I've ever received," he told her. "Better than any business deal, any award, anything. You are my greatest gift." Everything seemed perfect. But in late September, perfection shattered. Ashley had been feeling tired for a few weeks, which she attributed to the busy schedule of caring for Virginia and working. But when she started running a fever that wouldn't break and developed a persistent cough, Lawrence insisted she see a doctor. The diagnosis was serious. Ashley had developed a severe bacterial infection that had spread to her bloodstream, complicated by an underlying autoimmune condition that had never been diagnosed. She needed to be hospitalized immediately for aggressive antibiotic treatment. Lawrence felt like the world was tilting. He couldn't lose Ashley. He couldn't. Not now. Not when they had finally built this beautiful family. Virginia was at school when Ashley was admitted to Methodist Hospital. Lawrence had to be the one to tell their daughter that evening. "Is Mommy going to die?" Virginia asked, her voice small and terrified. "No," Lawrence said firmly, though fear clawed at his own heart. "No, the doctors are going to take very good care of her, but she has to stay in the hospital for a while to get better." "Can I see her?" "Tomorrow, I promise. First thing tomorrow, we'll go see her." That night, Virginia crawled into Lawrence's bed again, just like she had on her first night home. They held each other in the darkness, both trying to be brave for the other. At the hospital the next day, Ashley looked pale and weak, connected to IVs and monitors. But when Virginia came through the door, moving quickly on her crutches, Ashley's face lit up. "There's my girl," Ashley said, her voice hoarse. Virginia carefully climbed onto the bed, mindful of all the wires and tubes. "Mommy, you have to get better. You have to. We need you." "I'm going to fight as hard as I can, baby," Ashley promised. "And you know what? I have the best reason to fight. I have you and Daddy waiting for me at home." The next few weeks were the hardest of their lives. Lawrence balanced running his company, taking care of Virginia, and spending every possible moment at the hospital. He was exhausted, running on coffee and sheer will. Virginia tried to be brave. She did her homework without being asked. She kept her room clean. She didn't complain. But at night, Lawrence would hear her crying into her pillow. One evening, about 2 weeks into Ashley's hospitalization, Lawrence was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop, trying to review contracts but unable to concentrate. Virginia came downstairs in her pajamas, Mr. Hops under her arm. "Daddy, can I talk to you?" Lawrence closed the laptop immediately. "Of course, sweetheart. Come here." Virginia climbed into his lap, something she had been doing more often lately, seeking comfort. I'm scared, Daddy. What if Mommy doesn't get better? What if she leaves us like my first mommy did? Lawrence held her close, feeling her small body shake. I'm scared too, Virginia. I'm terrified. But we have to have faith. The doctors say she's getting stronger every day. I've been praying, Virginia whispered. Every night before bed, I pray that God will make Mommy better. Do you think God listens to kids? Lawrence, who hadn't prayed since he was a child himself, found himself hoping desperately that he did. I think God listens to everyone, especially brave little girls with good hearts. Virginia pulled back to look at him. Daddy, you look really tired, like really, really tired. Are you taking care of yourself? Lawrence managed a weak smile. I'm okay, sweetheart. Mommy would want you to eat and sleep, Virginia said with a wisdom beyond her years. And I want you to be okay too, because you're my daddy, and I need you. That simple statement, the trust and love in Virginia's voice, gave Lawrence strength he didn't know he had. You're right. Tell you what, how about we make dinner together? Nothing fancy, just grilled cheese? Virginia nodded. And tomato soup? And tomato soup. They worked together in the kitchen, Virginia sitting on a stool while Lawrence did the cooking. She told him about school, about a new friend named Sophie, about a funny thing that happened during art class. For just a little while, they found normalcy in the chaos. After dinner, Virginia surprised Lawrence by pulling out some papers from her backpack. I made these for Mommy, to make her feel better. She had drawn a series of pictures. One showed their house with all three of them standing in front. Another showed Ashley gardening. A third showed them having a tea party. And the last one showed Ashley in a hospital bed, but with a big smile and the caption, Get well soon, I love you, Virginia. These are beautiful, Lawrence said, his throat tight. We'll take them to her tomorrow. As he tucked Virginia into bed that night, she grabbed his hand. Daddy, no matter what happens, we're still a family, right? You're not going to send me back if something bad happens. Lawrence felt like he'd been punched. Virginia Marie Galvin, you listen to me very carefully. You are my daughter. Forever. Nothing can change that. Not anything. You understand? If something happened to Mommy, which it won't, you and I would face it together. You are never, ever going back anywhere. You are home. This is your family. Period. Virginia nodded, tears on her cheeks. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby girl. More than you can possibly know. In the third week, Ashley began to turn the corner. The antibiotics were finally working. The fever was gone and she was regaining her strength. The doctors were cautiously optimistic that she would make a full recovery, though it would take time. When they told Virginia the good news, she cried with relief. That weekend, the doctor said Ashley could have longer visits, so Lawrence brought Virginia to the hospital for the entire afternoon. Ashley was sitting up in bed, looking more like herself when they arrived. Virginia rushed to her side as fast as her crutches would allow. Mommy, you look so much better. I feel better, sweetheart, Ashley said, hugging her daughter carefully. The doctors say I might be able to come home in another week or so. Really? Really, truly? Really, truly. Lawrence pulled up a chair beside the bed, and they spent the afternoon as a family, just talking and laughing. Ashley admired all of Virginia's drawings. Virginia told her mother every detail about what had been happening at school. Lawrence ordered them all dinner from the hospital cafeteria, and they had a makeshift picnic in the hospital room. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, Ashley looked at her husband and daughter and felt overwhelming gratitude. She had come so close to losing this, to leaving them, but she had fought her way back. I have something to tell you both, Ashley said, something the doctors and I have been discussing. Lawrence and Virginia looked at her with concern. Ashley smiled. Don't worry, it's good news. Well, I hope you'll think it's good news. Virginia, you know how we've been talking about your legs and the crutches? Virginia nodded slowly. Well, while I was lying here in this bed with nothing to do but think, I started researching, and Daddy helped, and we found something. There's a new treatment program, very advanced at a specialty center in Omaha. It combines intensive physical therapy with some new techniques. The doctors think it might help you walk without crutches. Virginia's eyes went wide. Really? I could walk like other kids? Possibly, Lawrence cautioned. We want to be honest with you. It's not a guarantee. It would take a long time, probably 6 months to a year of hard work. The therapy would be challenging, sometimes uncomfortable, but the doctors think you're an excellent candidate. Would it hurt? Virginia asked quietly. Sometimes, Ashley admitted, but we'd be with you every step of the way. And you're so strong, Virginia. If anyone can do this, it's you. Virginia touched the crutches that leaned against the hospital bed. They had been part of her life for so long. The idea of not needing them was both exciting and terrifying. What if I try and I fail? She asked. Then you tried, Lawrence said simply, and we'll be proud of you for trying. And you know what? Even if the treatment doesn't work exactly the way we hope, you're still our amazing daughter. The crutches don't define you, Virginia. They never have. Virginia thought for a long moment, then nodded. I want to try. I want to at least try. Ashley and Lawrence exchanged relieved glances. Then we'll try, Ashley said. Together. True to the doctor's word, Ashley came home 10 days later. The house felt complete again with her in it. Virginia barely left her mother's side for the first few days, as if afraid she might disappear again. In early November, Virginia began her treatment program at the Advanced Mobility Center of Omaha. Dr. Richard Harrison, a physical therapist who specialized in pediatric mobility issues, assessed Virginia thoroughly. She has excellent upper body strength from using the crutches, Dr. Harrison told Lawrence and Ashley during the initial consultation. Her determination and positive attitude are huge assets. I think we can help her, but she's going to have to work harder than she's ever worked before. The first session was difficult. Dr. Harrison pushed Virginia to stretch muscles that had been compensating for years. She cried from the pain and frustration, but she didn't give up. 3 times a week, right after school, Lawrence would leave work early to take Virginia to therapy. He sat in every session, cheering her on, wiping her tears, celebrating every tiny victory. Just 5 more, Virginia, Dr. Harrison would say. You've got this. I can't, Virginia would sob. You can, Lawrence would tell her. You're a Galvin. Galvins don't quit. At home, Ashley turned their spacious living room into an extension of the therapy center. She helped Virginia do her exercises every evening. It was slow, painful progress. By December, Virginia could take a few steps holding on to parallel bars without her crutches. By January, she could walk the length of the therapy room with someone steadying her. By February, she could manage short distances on her own, though she was wobbly and still needed the crutches for any real distance. Progress is progress, Dr. Harrison reminded them. We're rewiring her brain and retraining her muscles. This takes time. Virginia's 7th birthday was approaching in mid-March. Ashley and Lawrence wanted to do something special, especially after the difficult year they'd all had. What would you like for your birthday, sweetheart? Ashley asked one evening as they worked on Virginia's exercises. Virginia was quiet for a moment. I want to walk at my birthday party without crutches, even if it's just across the room. I want to show everyone how hard I've been working. It was an ambitious goal. They still had 6 weeks. Then let's make it happen, Lawrence said. They doubled down on the therapy. Dr. Harrison agreed to add extra sessions. Virginia worked until she was exhausted every day. There were tears and frustration and moments when she wanted to give up. One particularly hard day in late February, Virginia threw her exercise bands across the room in frustration. I hate this. I hate all of it. Why is it so hard? Why can't I just be normal? Lawrence, who had been watching the therapy session, stood up and walked to where Virginia was crying on the floor. But he didn't comfort her immediately. Instead, he sat down beside her. You know what I hate? He said conversationally. I hate that I'm sterile. I hate that I can't have biological children. For a long time, I thought that made me less of a man, less than normal. Virginia looked up at him, surprised. They had never really discussed this. But then I realized something, Lawrence continued. Normal is a myth. There's no such thing. Everyone has something, Virginia. Everyone has challenges and differences and things they wish they could change. The question isn't whether you're normal. The question is, who are you going to be? Are you going to be someone who gives up? Or are you going to be someone who keeps fighting? Fighting is hard, Virginia whispered. The things worth having always are, Lawrence said gently. But you know what? You don't have to do it alone. That's what family is for. Virginia leaned against his shoulder. I'm tired, Daddy. I know. But you're also strong, stronger than you know. The next day, Virginia apologized to Dr. Harrison for throwing the exercise bands. I'm ready to work again. Dr. Harrison smiled. That's the spirit. As Virginia's birthday approached, Ashley threw herself into party planning. She invited Virginia's entire class, the staff from Hope Haven, Dr. Harrison, family friends. The backyard was transformed with decorations in Virginia's favorite purple and pink colors. There was a bounce house, a face painting station, games, and a massive cake shaped like a castle. On the morning of her birthday, Virginia woke up to find Lawrence and Ashley sitting on the edge of her bed, watching her with soft smiles. Happy birthday, sweetheart, Ashley said, kissing her forehead. You're 7 years old today, Lawrence added. That's a very big deal. Virginia sat up, rubbing her eyes. Is it time for the party already? Not for a few hours. But we have something for you. Ashley handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a pair of beautiful purple shoes, Mary Jane's with a small heel and silver buckles. They're so pretty, Virginia said, touching them gently. But why do I need fancy shoes? Lawrence and Ashley exchanged glances. Because if you're ready, today might be the day you walk on your own, Lawrence said. And we thought you should have special shoes for such a special day. Virginia's eyes filled with tears. You think I can do it? We know you can, Ashley said. The question is, do you think you can? Virginia looked at the shoes, then at her parents, then at her crutches leaning against the nightstand. She had been working so hard for so long. She was scared, but she was also ready. I think I can try, she said. The party was in full swing by mid-afternoon. Children ran around the backyard, high on sugar and excitement. Parents chatted near the refreshment tables. Music played from speakers. It was a perfect celebration. Virginia had been using her crutches throughout the party, not ready to reveal her surprise yet. But as it came time to cut the cake, Ashley gave her a meaningful look. Lawrence stood up and called for everyone's attention. The backyard grew quiet. We just want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate our daughter's 7th birthday, Lawrence said, his arm around Ashley. This year has been challenging for our family, but it's also been full of blessings, and Virginia has worked incredibly hard to achieve something very special. Sweetheart, are you ready? Virginia, sitting in a chair near the cake table, nodded nervously. Her new purple shoes gleamed on her feet. She set her crutches aside and placed her hands on the armrests of the chair. The backyard went completely silent. Everyone who knew Virginia's story held their breath. Slowly, carefully, Virginia stood up. Her legs shook slightly. She took a deep breath, finding her balance. Then, with determination written across her young face, she took a step. Then another. Then another. She walked across the patio to where her parents stood. 12 steps total, no crutches, no support, just Virginia, walking on her own. When she reached Lawrence and Ashley, she looked up at them with the biggest smile. I did it, she whispered. I really did it. The backyard erupted. People cheered and cried and applauded. Virginia's classmates jumped up and down with excitement. Mrs. Patterson from Hope Haven was sobbing. Dr. Harrison was beaming with pride. Lawrence picked Virginia up and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. Ashley joined the embrace, the three of them holding each other as the celebration continued around them. I'm so proud of you, Lawrence said into Virginia's hair. So incredibly proud. We both are, Ashley added. You worked so hard for this, sweetheart. You never gave up. Virginia pulled back to look at them. I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. The rest of the party was joyful chaos. Virginia showed off her new ability to walk, though she tired quickly and needed to sit often. She didn't mind. She had proven to herself that she could do it, and that was enough. As the sun began to set and guests started leaving, Virginia was sitting on her father's lap, exhausted but happy, watching the last of the children play. Ashley sat beside them, her hand resting on Virginia's back. This has been the best birthday ever, Virginia said, yawning. We have one more present for you, Ashley said, her voice shaking slightly with emotion. Virginia perked up. Another present? Lawrence and Ashley looked at each other, then back at their daughter. Ashley took both of Virginia's hands in hers. Virginia, you're going to be a big sister. Virginia's eyes went wide. What? Really? You're having a baby? Yes, Ashley said, laughing and crying. The doctors didn't think it was possible, but sometimes miracles happen. You're going to have a little sister or brother in about 6 months. Virginia threw her arms around Ashley's neck. This is the best present in the whole world. I'm going to be the best big sister ever. I'll teach them everything. I'll help with diapers and bottles and everything. Lawrence laughed. We're counting on it, kiddo. As they sat there in their backyard, surrounded by the remnants of the party with the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky, Lawrence reflected on how drastically his life had changed in just over a year. He had gone from a man who thought his life was over to a man who couldn't imagine his life any other way. The next 6 months passed in a happy blur. Virginia continued her physical therapy, growing stronger and more confident every day. She still kept her crutches in her room, a reminder of where she had come from, but she rarely needed them anymore. She threw herself into preparing for her new sibling with an enthusiasm that was both endearing and overwhelming. She read every book about babies she could find. She helped Ashley and Lawrence set up the nursery. She made drawings and crafts to decorate the baby's room. School continued to go well. Virginia was excelling in all her classes and had been chosen to represent her grade in the school's art show. Her painting of her family, complete with a new baby, won first place. In early September, on a warm night with crickets singing outside, Ashley went into labor. Lawrence drove them to the hospital, Virginia in the backseat holding Mr. Hops and practically bouncing with excitement. Mommy's having the baby. The baby's coming, Virginia kept repeating. At the hospital, Virginia stayed in the waiting room with Mrs. Patterson, who had insisted on being there for this important moment. Lawrence was with Ashley in the delivery room, holding her hand and being far more emotional than he had expected. At 3:47 a.m., after 8 hours of labor, Ashley gave birth to a healthy baby girl weighing 7 pounds, 3 ounces. The nurse placed the baby in Ashley's arms, and Lawrence felt tears streaming down his face. She was perfect, tiny and pink with a tuft of dark hair and lungs that worked very well, judging by her cries. She's beautiful, Lawrence whispered. Absolutely beautiful. Just like her big sister, Ashley said, exhausted but radiant. After the nurses had checked the baby and Ashley was settled in a recovery room, they brought Virginia in. The 7-year-old walked into the room slowly, her eyes huge, staring at the small bundle in her mother's arms. Come here, sweetheart, Ashley said. Come meet your sister. Virginia approached cautiously as if the baby might break. Ashley adjusted so Virginia could see the baby's face. She's so tiny, Virginia breathed. And she's really ours? She's really my sister? Really and truly, Lawrence confirmed. And we have something else to tell you. We want you to help us name her. Virginia looked up in surprise. Me? I get to help name her? Well, actually, your mom and I already chose the name, Lawrence said with a smile. But we wanted to tell you first and see if you approved. What is it? Virginia asked. Ashley and Lawrence looked at each other, then back at Virginia. Martha, Ashley said softly. We want to name her Martha, after your mother. after my best friend, so that her name and her love live on through this new life." Virginia's eyes filled with tears. She reached out a tentative finger and the baby grasped it with her tiny hand. "Hello, Martha," Virginia whispered. "I'm your big sister, Virginia, and I promise I'm going to take such good care of you. I'm going to tell you all about your namesake, about how brave and kind she was. And I'm going to show you how to be brave too." The baby made a small noise, and Virginia laughed through her tears. "She likes her name, I can tell." Lawrence pulled Virginia onto his lap so she was sitting beside Ashley and baby Martha, the four of them together for the first time, a complete family. "You know what's amazing?" Ashley said, looking at her husband and two daughters. "A year and a half ago, Lawrence and I thought we could never have children. We thought our family would always be incomplete. But look at us now. We have two beautiful daughters. We have a family full of love." "It's more than I ever dreamed of," Lawrence admitted. "Virginia, do you remember what you said to us the day we met? You said you just wanted a home." Virginia nodded, remembering that sad, scared girl in the orphanage courtyard. "Well, I just want you to know," Lawrence continued, his voice thick with emotion, "you didn't just find a home. You created one. You made us a family. And now you're going to be the best big sister to Martha, just like you're the best daughter we could ever ask for." Over the next few weeks, they settled into life as a family of four. Virginia took her role as big sister very seriously. She would sit with Martha for hours, reading her stories and singing songs. When the baby cried in the night, Virginia would often wake up and tiptoe to the nursery to check on her. "I just wanted to make sure she was okay," Virginia would explain when Lawrence or Ashley found her standing by the crib at 2 in the morning. The first time Martha smiled, it was at Virginia. Virginia had been making funny faces and talking in a high voice, and suddenly, Martha's face lit up with a toothless grin. Virginia screamed with delight, bringing Lawrence and Ashley running. "She smiled at me. Did you see? She smiled at me." As Martha grew, it became clear she adored her big sister. Her eyes would follow Virginia around the room. She would calm down when Virginia sang to her. And eventually Virginia's name was one of the first words Martha learned to say, though it came out more like Jin Jin. One evening in late October, when Martha was about 2 months old, the family was in the living room. Ashley was nursing Martha, Lawrence was reading the newspaper, and Virginia was doing her homework at the coffee table. It was a quiet, ordinary moment. Virginia looked up from her math problems and just watched her family for a minute. The lamplight gave everything a warm glow. She could hear the baby making small, contented noises. Her dad was humming under his breath as he read. Her mom caught her looking and winked at her. "What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" Ashley asked. Virginia smiled. "I was just thinking about how I used to be so sad at Hope Haven. I thought I would never have a real family, that I wasn't good enough to be loved. I was sent back 3 times, and I thought that meant something was wrong with me." Lawrence set down his newspaper, giving Virginia his full attention. "But now I know the truth," Virginia continued. "There was never anything wrong with me. Those people just weren't my family. They weren't meant to be, because my real family was you two, and baby Martha. I just had to wait to find you. Or maybe you had to find me." Ashley was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "We found each other, sweetheart. We were all lost in our own ways, and we found each other." Virginia stood up and walked over to her parents, her steps sure and confident now. She sat between them on the couch, and Lawrence pulled her close. "You know what I learned?" Virginia said. "I learned that family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who chooses you and who you choose back. It's about who's there when things are hard. It's about who loves you even when you're not easy to love." "That's very wise," Lawrence said, kissing the top of her head. "When did you get so smart?" "I learned from the best," Virginia said simply. Martha finished nursing and Ashley burped her gently. "Want to hold your sister, Virginia?" Virginia nodded eagerly. Ashley carefully placed the baby in Virginia's arms, showing her how to support Martha's head. Virginia looked down at the tiny face, at this miracle of a sister she never thought she would have. "Hi, Martha," Virginia cooed. "Did I ever tell you how lucky you are? You get to grow up in this house with these parents from the very beginning. You don't have to wait or hope or wonder if you're good enough. You'll always know you're loved." The baby looked up at her big sister with unfocused eyes and made a happy gurgling sound. "I'm going to make sure you always know that," Virginia promised. "And I'm going to tell you all about your namesake, the first Martha, about how she was my mom and Ashley's best friend, about how she brought our family together even after she was gone. You're named after someone very special, little one." Lawrence watched his daughters, his heart so full it ached. He thought about that day in Dr. Morrison's office when he learned he was sterile, when he thought his dreams of fatherhood were over. He had felt like such a failure then, but looking at Virginia gently rocking Martha, at Ashley watching them with such love, he realized he hadn't failed at all. He had just taken a different path to fatherhood, and it had led him exactly where he was meant to be. "What are you thinking about?" Ashley asked him quietly. "I'm thinking about how they sent her back 3 times, Lawrence said, nodding at Virginia. 3 families had the chance to love that incredible child, and they gave up. They saw an obstacle instead of an opportunity. They saw crutches instead of courage. Their loss was our gain," Ashley said. "More than that," Lawrence said. "Their rejection led her to us. If even one of those families had kept her, she wouldn't be ours. So in a strange way, I'm grateful to every person who failed to see what we see, because it meant she was waiting for us." Virginia looked up from Martha. "I can hear you, you know. And Dad's right. I used to be so angry at the people who sent me back. But now I think maybe it was supposed to happen that way. Maybe I had to go through all that hurt to really appreciate what I have now." "That's a very mature perspective," Ashley said. "Well, I'm 7 1/4 now," Virginia said with mock seriousness. "Practically grown up." They all laughed, and Martha startled at the sound, then made a noise that might have been a baby laugh. As winter approached and the holidays drew near, their home was filled with warmth and laughter and love. They took family photos for their Christmas card, Martha in a tiny red dress, and Virginia in her favorite purple. They decorated the house together, Virginia showing Martha the ornaments and explaining the story behind each one. On Christmas Eve, they started a new family tradition. They each shared something they were grateful for from the past year. "I'm grateful that Mommy got better when she was sick," Virginia said. "And I'm grateful for Martha. And I'm grateful that my legs are strong now. I'm grateful for my family," Ashley said, looking at each of them, "for my husband, my daughters, and for second chances." "I'm grateful," Lawrence said, his voice catching, "for the little girl who just wanted a home and who gave me the chance to be a father. I'm grateful for my wife's strength and courage. And I'm grateful for the newest member of our family who reminds us every day about the miracle of life and love." As they sat together by the Christmas tree, Martha asleep in Ashley's arms and Virginia nestled against Lawrence, they were the picture of a perfect family. But their perfection hadn't come easy. It had been forged through pain and rejection and fear and courage. Virginia looked up at the portrait hanging above the fireplace. It was a painting she had made in art class, her masterpiece. It showed 4 people, a man in a black suit, a woman in a blue dress, a girl in purple, and a baby in pink. They were holding hands, and above them she had written in careful letters, "The Galvin family, forever and always." 3 times she had been sent back. 3 times she had been told, in action if not in words, that she wasn't enough. But the 4th time, she had found parents who saw her worth, who fought for her, who chose her every single day. And in return, she had given them the greatest gift. She had made them a family. She had taught them that love isn't limited by biology, that family is built on commitment and kindness and showing up even when it's hard. As Virginia drifted off to sleep that Christmas Eve, warm and safe between her parents, her baby sister sleeping peacefully nearby, she smiled. She was home. Finally, truly, forever home. And in that home, she wasn't the girl with crutches or the girl who was sent back 3 times. She was simply Virginia Galvin, beloved daughter and proud big sister. She was enough. She had always been enough. She just needed to find the people who could see it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this beautiful love story. Let us know what you thought of this tale full of emotions and surprises. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and rate this story from 0 to 10 if it touched your heart. And if you enjoyed the plot, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the amazing new stories coming soon. See you next time.